Late to the party, I know. I was busy monitoring what people have to say about the Pariah Nexus Kill Team expansion set after I heard that the heavy intercessors are 17.3 wound toughness 5 minis. At that point, my view that Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team Pariah Nexus was the salvation of the game turned quickly to it being a questionable addition. Yes, this video is the one that's full of salt. I did promise you this in an earlier channel update video. I'll also be making an opinion piece, and rant alert, this will be a salt-steeped one. Is Kill Team Pariah Nexus a problematic product? Am I right? Wrong? You be the judge. Okay, here goes. Pariah Nexus has its fair share of balance-related problems. These problems have not been discussed by the majority of YouTubers, as the 9 or so videos I watched focus solely on its price point and discuss how the set impacts big hammer players and not Kill Team ones. These are not what this video will discuss. This clip will discuss the questionable balance-related problems Pariah Nexus has introduced into our favorite game. Kill Team Pariah Nexus has single-handedly shifted the community's preference solely to Imperium models, specifically the Adeptus Astartes and the Death Watch. Now, with the latter, I guess it's kind of fair to say that the Death Watch needs the buff. Certainly, I've read from quite a number of online forums that 5-man teams do struggle against the horde heavy meta of Kill Team. However, raising the Imperium Space Marines Firstborns to 2 wounds apiece is, in my opinion, very problematic. Imagine this. My family assembles for a night of Warhammer 40k Kill Team and I announce, "Alright, we'll try out the Pariah Nexus expansion. My Salamander Space Marines are now 2 wounds, while your non-Imperial ones are still 1 wound apiece. Yes, including the Death Guard, which are supposed to have durability as their selling point. Plague Marines are still 1 wound each." Can you just imagine the confusion? Especially with most factions that do not have access to the Adeptus Astartes special toys? Consider, most weapons in Kill Team are damage 1 once. An example are the Kroot, which have been handicapped to having only 1 Krootox rider. The rest are strength 3 chaff, having only damage 1 weapons. Another is, and you might be surprised with this opinion, the Death Guard. True, they may have some of the scariest weapons in the game, but consider this. They're hard capped to having only 2 gunners and 2 fighters. The rest, 401 bolt guns. They don't even have that dreaded Sniper Auspex Comms combo. And now the Imperium Space Marines are up to 2 wounds? What are the ramifications of these changes? Plot twist. These ramifications already happening. Did you remember back in the early days of 2019 when people were still flooding the forums with posts about the Drukhari, the Asuryani, and the Tau Empire? Posts like that are few and far between now. A good number of discussions nowadays are about Space Marines and the Death Watch. If Games Workshop's intent was to steer the community into only discussing these 2 factions, they've done an amazing job. Amazing. Mind you, there are still discussions about Xenos and the odd Grey Knight related question or two, but the frequency of these popping up is in no way equal to that of the early months of 2019. And then there's the Pariah Nexus problem about the heavy intercessors. 17 points for a 3 wound toughness 5 model? As a Salamanders player, my answer is a resounding yes please. I'd plant 1 to 2 of these guys on objectives, arm them with those new and shiny multi-damage Executor and Hellstorm weapons, save command points for a couple of death-denied activations, and I should be on my way to unsatisfying victories in our LGS matches. Now, mind you, I am not an Imperium hater. My Imperium Minis collection eclipses my Xenos ones by a wide margin. In fact, my first extensive faction-focused video on this channel is about the Space Marines. Now, I may be an Eldar player first and foremost, but negative feedback like this is not self-serving. It's for the entire community. A more balanced game makes hard-won victories more satisfying and makes defeats veritable lessons. However, if Games Workshop insists on this blatant bias for all things Imperium, more people will shift to Imperium kill teams. And what will that mean for the community? More Space Marines mirror matches, less Xenos, less variety. How long before people get bored after seeing the same opposing factions ad nauseum? I don't know about you, but if you ask me, I would be more interested in a more varied enemy pool. This sort of feedback is not just for Xenos players, it is for the entire kill team community. Now, for the counter-arguments. 1. Marines aren't exactly top tier. While this is still a fair observation in some ways, I feel this is not where Games Workshop should have started in terms of balance passes and/or unit additions. They should have started with the forgotten factions like the Sisters of Battle, Sisters of Silence, Gene Stealer Cults, Kroot, Servants of the Abyss, Elocidian Star Striders. If there are to be any balance passes and/or unit additions, shouldn't we opine that Games Workshop should buff the above first? I mean, it's safe to say that where tactics, weapons, and units are concerned, Marines already have more than enough. And they're not exactly low tier either. Didn't Michael Hawley bag second place as the White Scars in one of those larger tournaments before the outbreak? 2. Other factions will get their updates soon. In all probability, true. But a question, and this is an honest one, not being sarcastic or anything. When will that be, especially what with this outbreak? I don't think that they'll be able to do so as fast as 3 to 4 months. Until then, we're still stuck in this surreal and balanced limbo. 3. So homebrew your own rules. That's well and good. In fact, I and the online circles I'm in are doing that for the forgotten factions. However, there is still the issue of gathering enough data to know whether the rules we've made will make for a balanced experience. As of right now, we're still trying to see if the rules we've generated will bring about a more balanced experience. Also, it becomes trickier if you introduce homebrewed rules into your LGS. Some people might be averse to playing outside of the official rule sets. 4. Heavy intercessors are easy to take down. In all probability, this stems from the mindset that the opposing team is also a Space Marine squad. Certainly, a Las Fusil or a master-crafted Stalker bolt rifle can take out a heavy intercessor. However, my complaint stems from the imbalance between GQs and the Adeptus Astartes. While the Imperial Guard and Adeptus Mechanicus might not have a problem given their overabundance of plasma, what about the Eldar? In a given squad, the best they can field are 2 fusion gunners. What about the Necrons? Sure, with the Mephrit dynastic code, they may have good armor penetration, but those damage 1 weapons will guarantee you won't get a one-shot, one-kill scenario most of the time. Let's just not discuss the Servants of the Abyss or the Kroot. Balance-wise, things will begin to devolve much further with those guys. So, all in all, yeah, it's pretty problematic. And I'm not the only one. While a good number of people were excited when it launched, several large YouTube channels have expressed their opinions about the expansion set. Most aren't good. I also called it several months ago. If so, we, the local community, actually don't need this. Well, we kind of do, but in terms of priority, we'd rather have balance passes first. A simple errata or an FAQ put up on Warhammer community, and done. What the kill team community needs is a comprehensive balance pass that will make the forgotten factions more viable and fun to play against MEQs, not incremental buffs that focus only on a couple of factions. Incremental buffs that focus only on a couple of factions are bad for skirmish-type games. The tactics, models, and the things you can do in a skirmish game are too limited compared to the larger war games. This limited set of options make questionable buffs all the more glaring as shortchanged factions struggle to find an answer for the new, improved units. Kill Team Pariah Nexus is a problematic product. Opinions may vary, but if you ask me, even in the most positive light, at best, it has given buffs to factions that don't really need them relative to the other less popular factions that are wallowing in obscurity. This has been Retroburn, and if you find Warhammer 40k opinion pieces like this one interesting and or helpful, consider subscribing. Happy gaming! And oh, have you heard? Death Denied is back to 2 command points again. Several weeks ago, I replied with this on the forums. Is this another typo like the Grey Knight's Pair of Falchions fiasco? With Kill Team products, we can never know. Here's hoping the new Kill Team that they're hiring will have more stringent QA.